Now, Matchweek 3 had a lot of controversies that began from Chelsea, Fulham to Aston Villa, Crystal Palace. There's a lot of drama that was in there, and it was also the final week of the transfer window. So there's a lot to unpack here. If you want to see more of this before we dive in, please consider leaving a like and subscribing to this kind of content so that you get notified whenever I upload. Hi, my name is Collins Balozi, and this is the Touchline Take. Now, let's begin from Chelsea Fulham. It was a match in which Fulham really did give Chelsea a lot of questions. They posed a lot of questions for Chelsea to try and answer, especially with Cole Palmer missing in the Chelsea squad. There has been a lot of rotations here and there that also led to Liam Delap playing up top and João Pedro playing as the number 10, which he also did in Brighton last season. So it is not something new for him. So that game started out quite well for Fulham. It's a London derby in which they have not won much. They have won, I think, once in 14 attempts at the Stamford Bridge. So that shows you how difficult the task was in Saturday afternoon's match. So when they went into that match, they really started on the front foot. It has been showing over the first three matches that as much as they do not get the results they hope to get in matches, Fulham really try to give the opponent something to think about. They come guns blazing. They stick to their tactics quite well. They have players who are sort of inspired when you compare to how they performed last season, especially a player like Sasha Lukic has been playing really well for the first three matches of the season. I think he's someone that you're going to notice playing exceptionally well, just the same way that João Palhinha did when he was there before he warranted a move away to Bayern. So I think Sasha is also a similar kind of a player who gets into the tackle quite well, quite aggressive, wins the ball most of the time, and is also good at very dangerous set piece deliveries. So this match began with Fulham having the ascendance, and when they did break the Chelsea back line, when Chelsea had tried to pin them in their own half, they opted for the ball where the number 9 holds the defenders, then shreds it through for the oncoming winger or midfielder. And this, in this case, was Muniz holding the ball and set through Josh King, the youngster, who went ahead and scored. But VAR had to cancel that goal because of a challenge that Muniz committed on Trevor Chalobah. But in my opinion, that is it is a normal footballing contact that someone can go for a skill and miss it, because in my opinion, I think even if Muniz does not foul Chalobah and gets away to get that through ball to Josh King, there's no way Chalobah is going to track Josh King in that moment because he had beaten them on the halfway line. So I really think Muniz's challenge was totally accidental, and this happened in football matches. But to warrant the goal being cancelled, it's not like Chalobah was the last man or Chalobah was the one to go and match Josh King for pace or try and bundle him from the ball. So I really think that was a harsh decision from the VAR. And again, the way the referee announced it on the stadium, it was just spinning. I didn't understand why you'd call it a careless challenge. And a footballer, he tried to just maneuver his body around the pitch. It was nothing cynical. So I don't know how much care someone can put into a challenge or into the way they express themselves on the pitch. But that was, for me, a harsh decision. But it changed the course of the match, because at that point, Chelsea had not scored as much as they were trying to put Fulham on their defensive third. They had not created clear-cut chances to try and score. In fact, Fulham had already have chances before the Josh King goal that was disallowed. But you could see when Marco Silva lost it, his team decided to, the VAR is against us, the officiating is against us, so they just let it go. And this was not really a sign of mental fortitude from Fulham, because then Chelsea went on and scored before the half ended. Then they came and scored early in the second half, and this just buried the match for them. We knew that before even the match started, that Chelsea would have just enough to dislodge Fulham, but Fulham came with a really concrete game plan that with which they, if they would have stuck with, they would have got something from the game. But yeah, you get what you get. You don't influence results in that sense, especially when your head is gone. So Fulham lost that match. Chelsea won. We expected, Chelsea to keep on improving, and they did. So let's see what happens after the international break. That players come back tired, jet lagged. You have to twitch the system here and there. There's a lot more competitions that are beginning to start, especially the Champions League, in which Chelsea are competing. So it's going to be a huge match, a huge match after a huge match after a huge match for every 3 days for a long, long time. So let's see how that is going to work out. And now Spurs welcomed Bournemouth later on in the day to Tottenham Hotspur Stadium. And quite early on, Bournemouth did find their goal and stuck to their guns. And this was uncharacteristic from the last two matches that you saw from Spurs, that they did not work as a unit. Bournemouth did manage to overrun them into their defensive third, but the only change that I saw in that match was the wingers were not tracking back enough, so they made the overloads even more profitable for Bournemouth. Kudus, a player whom we have seen put in shifts of defensive work, did not do that on Saturday, and I don't know why. So Poros outrun with Truffert and Tavernier sometimes, so it was, or even Semenyo when he switched sides, or Brooks. So it was a tough match for them, especially when they thought they're playing a lesser opponent, that they could try to rest and in the match and try to find their players wherever they are. They found Bournemouth to be a very tricky side, and which we know has been a tricky side. So I don't know why they decided to do that, but again, it costed them. The players didn't give enough to try and defend, because if you're being attacked and your forwards or midfielders leave the work for the defenders, and there's no way these defenders are going to take this ball and bring it upside towards the attacking third of the other team, and also make up the numbers, because they are being worked 2 times over. So you could see it was not easy for players like Poro to influence the game from right back or full back positions. Players like Spence, there was not really enough cohesion in there, because they really, the forwards especially, that is where my stress is, that the forwards did not track back enough to help the full backs and the other defenders to play out from the back and then come out as a team. So Thomas Frank even spoke about that in the press conference, saying that he was frustrated, embarrassed, and yeah, I think they did not get it right this time, and it happens. It's the Premier League. Anyone can beat you at any particular moment if you make those kinds of mistakes. So again, but Manchester United was playing against Burnley at the same time, and Manchester United began the match quite well with a lot of attempts in the first half, but the problem still was not taking those chances. But when they did, again, they also let Burnley come and play in the second half. And when they did come to play in the second half, they scored 2 goals in the second half, which is something that you do not want to see as a Manchester United fan, because their team did have chances to bury the game quite early, but they did not. especially when you see that when they win the ball when they win the midfield battles, Manchester United, they play it quite quickly to their forwards. So which means your mistake could be easily punished, but it's not punished because of lack of clinical finishing. So their terms of play, I think it has been a roller coaster. They play well, but staying in matches, going ahead in matches, because it's still a problem. And just seeing off matches generally is a problem that they are facing at this moment, and they need to try as much as possible to control matches the way they'd want to, because I think the tactic will work with time. But again, for every team, when these kinds of international breaks come around, they do not like them because it kills the momentum of teams that were doing well, and it rescues the teams that were doing badly off, and which is normal. So for Manchester United, I think Scott Parker was saying the all the talk around Manchester United not finding tactics right or failing to create chances and score chances is false. And again, we could see from their last two matches they've created more than 30 chances, but they only have 4 goals to show for it. So where is the correspondence with creating chances and finishing them? It's very low, and that is not something you want to hear from any side that wants to compete at the highest level. So again, they will not have a lot of they will not have any European competition after the international break. So this would give them a little bit of an advantage over the teams that will be competing in Europe to try and uh, stay fit, stay hungry, and try to just concentrate on the Premier League and getting 3 points after 3 points after 3 points if it's possible. But they have matches against the top sides coming back to back, so this is going to be something that they will struggle with a bit. But they'll have the advantage of rest